When I first decided to do a yoga teacher training, I was looking for something with smaller classes. I was looking for something that would include anatomy as well as the philosophy and cram in as much yoga as I possibly can, as well as in a place, an environment that I would feel safe, but also challenged. So being from the United States, a long way from home, I've never been to Bali before, so that was very exciting. And so all of the things that I was looking for, the boxes were checked before I got here. And then when I got here, it was a very different and better experience than I anticipated. I am a fitness trainer back home, and so diving deeper into the anatomy and all of the postures were incredibly important to me, especially because during my certification, it's all online. And so having someone there to really go in depth with the information, how it's applicable to the movement, and then adjusting the postures was really, really helpful. And having that small class size is just so much more valuable than being just another number in a room. I have taken a lot of yoga classes, a lot of different kinds of yoga classes back home, and the perfectionist in me always wanted all of the adjustments and to know exactly what I should be doing. And I felt as though before coming here that I had a lot of information, and I think I did, but I still learned so much, even the smallest little tweaks. Triangle pose sticks out to me in particular. I've always used a block in triangle pose, and that was always encouraged. And just the fact that on the very first day that we were practicing, Taryn said to not use the block because then you'll rely on that block and you need to rely on your own strength. And so immediately I just kicked on my core muscles and my leg muscles, and I was like, you got this. And it's things like that where it's, again, trusting yourself, but also learning the very specific reason you're doing things and not relying on just resting into the pose, but really feeling it. It's a strong pose, and you should feel strong when you're doing it. So for me, all of the posture labs and the adjustments and making corrections, like those fine-tuning, helps to make me a much better coach. And therefore, I feel like I can give that to others much more than I've experienced myself, which is really exciting. In terms of the morning practices, I would say probably my favorite part of the day, but also I think most people's favorite part of the day. I don't consider myself a morning person, but it's really, really nice to wake up and to start your day with some meditation and breath work and yoga. And what I knew very quickly was that my body was not as warm in the morning as it is in the afternoon. And so again, there were certain moments where it felt very challenging, but I have always believed that physically and mentally, if you can challenge yourself to the most, then you can be your best. And so if I can do those things in the morning, then I can do them in the afternoon, and I can teach them at any point. And so it was just a really beautiful way to start the day. We always started as well with an intention, expressing some gratitude, and also dedicating our practice to someone, which I haven't really done that often. And so every day you had to think of someone else or yourself, or maybe you repeat it at times, but you had to take yourself outside of your body and your mind for a moment and think about someone else. And I really enjoy practicing gratitude every day, and that for me was just another form of that, where I could be thinking about all of the moves as I went through the practice, but then realizing that it's not just about me and that I'm doing this for someone else, which I think is really beautiful. In terms of the anatomy class, Again, as a fitness professional, I didn't go to college for fitness or kinesiology or anything body related. I went for education. So when I decided to pivot into fitness and taking my online certification, you basically just read a book and you try to absorb as much information as you can, and you just try to take the quizzes and the tests. So it wasn't for me as all-encompassing as I would have liked. I really enjoy being taught in person and then also having the feedback from people around you in order to engage in a deeper conversation. So not only does Jan know a lot of information, he's able to answer a lot of questions, and then we also had a group of people that had different experiences, some in the medical professional as well. So that was just really not just informative for me, but also I can take real experiences, and then of course connecting it back to what we're doing. So a lot of times the classes that we had earlier in the morning, we were able to then be like, oh yes, and this benefited this. And most of the time when you're doing yoga or other physical movement, you don't always think about the benefits that it gives to the body. So that too was very important to me, again, to move beyond just, okay, we're here on the mat and I'm getting stronger or I'm getting leaner, or whatever your goal might be physically. Internally, there's a lot going on as well. And then for philosophy, Loka is a beautiful soul. Such a lovely human being. Very early on, I felt like she was like staring into my soul, which I don't know, maybe that was just me, but she just has this really nurturing, strong power in order to connect with you. And again, philosophy was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Loka Yoga School, because I care about more than just the movement. And so in speaking with her about not just the chakras, the yamas, all of the stuff that you might have heard of before, but also taking it into your own personal journey and saying that philosophy is not just what you read from the books. It's not just something that you can get online. It's something that comes from the heart, and it's something that you connect with personally. And she was able to do that with each of us in a small group setting, and we were able to get really vulnerable. And I think oftentimes vulnerability or emotion, especially crying, can come off as a weakness to a lot of people, and it was really, for me, impactful because I now look at that as such a strength. So yeah, it's wild how within a couple days I felt comfortable enough to share with our group such vulnerable information about myself, experiences about myself that I haven't shared with many people, and I felt so safe because she held a space that was comforting and safe, and you felt like you could open up, and in doing so, I've grown a lot. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. And then for the yoga mechanics with Stella, she knows so much, and in such a short period of time, we were able to cover specifically topics on the spine as well as the hips, which are two extremely important things to go over, especially with yoga. But I was like scribbling so many notes because again, thinking about all of the yoga classes that I've taken before, no one focuses on those things, which is kind of wild to me. A lot of it is the same kind of normal patterns, normal sequences that I've seen time and time again, and no one actually talks about the benefits as well. And so she provided us a lot of different mobility activities that you could have as an entire class of just spinal mobility or hip mobility, which I love hips. There's a lot of tension in there. And yet you could also take pieces of that and create multiple sequences. So just from the classes with her, I feel like I have a wealth of knowledge on two parts of the body that I know in myself carry a lot of tension. And if I allow myself to release that tension through this mobility, it could benefit me greatly. So I am just thinking about all of the people that I've coached before and how it would be so helpful. And then of course, with Jean and the kids yoga, I myself do not have children, and there's not children in my family as of yet. And so going into the class, I was a little bit like, I don't know if this is going to be as applicable to me. But she too went beyond just the material and talked about education and talked about where our kids are today, especially post-pandemic, and the changes that she's seen and how we can make an impact in their lives, again, beyond just the movement, and talking about the mental and emotional side, the ability to connect with other human beings, the ability to speak confidently, the ability to take yourself away from a screen and just focus on yourself without saying, oh, we're going to meditate or we're going to do breath work. And even though it was targeted to children, I was thinking about how this could be used for adults as well, because we too can be addicted to our screens and can lack that deep connection with others. And so looking at it in a different way, but making it so playful and so fun. And she too is just a beautiful spirit. Was so open about her own story and how she got to where she is. And so I was engaged the entire time, singing and clapping at the end, which again is another theme that I felt throughout the program, was that it's okay to not take life so seriously and to just have fun and to find the joy, no matter what that looks like. But beyond that, for me, it was very much so a personal journey, being able to dive deeper into who I am, and not just as a trainer and being able to kind of round out everything that I can do, but also just who I am as a human being. We talk a lot about the disciplines of yoga and how it's consistency, and even if it's just a small bit every single day, that practicing these little things like fire toes or meditation, breath work. It doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 30 seconds, 2 minutes. But those little things every single day add up. And over time, I realized how true that was, not just physically, as I went from like 15 seconds in my fire toes to 3 minutes, which was very exciting for me. But also the practice of accepting and loving myself every single day, being patient with myself. I tend to be a perfectionist, especially with movement, since it's something that I'm doing for my career. And some days you wake up and you're like, I cannot do this today. And that was okay. And some days you need some alone time as more of an introverted person. And that was okay. In fact, that was celebrated for taking time for myself. And so that allowed me to dive deeper into who I am now, but also who the little Kaitie, the inner child, is, and to connect on a much deeper level. And I feel like I have worked on myself for many, many years, but the past month feels like years of work, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And that's something that I never anticipated coming on this journey. And I am so, so, so grateful, because I feel as though I'm leaving here not just taking all of those little disciplines with me and taking my certificate, but I am also taking a much better Kaitie with me. So, and I'm very excited to live that life but also to share that with others.